Thanks for watching this Excel video. This is a support video for my next one, which is a hydration report. So we'll be looking at some applications of some dynamic charts to hydration testing of athletes. But today's one is really just to go through three functions that I'll use in the next video. And that means I don't have to spend time talking about them. I can just do all the cool stuff. So if you know how to use offset, RANDBETWEEN, and replace values, then you can stop right now and go to the next one, save yourself a few minutes. If not, stay along for the ride. Alright, so RANDBETWEEN is the one that I'll do first. What RANDBETWEEN does is produces a random number between an upper and a lower level. So if I just start typing rand, I can choose my bottom number, let's say 10, and my top number, let's say 100, and it'll just give me a random number. And if I drag that all the way across, whoops, a little bit too far, I've got my fake data. And so this can be quite useful. And for example, if I had just built a chart and I was trying to see how it looked with some data in it, I could put my numbers in, and one of the cool things about RANDBETWEEN is it recalculates in lots of circumstances. First way is just by hitting F9. So I can just be hitting F9 and looking to see how my chart's going to behave with different data in there. The other thing that causes RANDBETWEEN to recalculate is if you do something like write a new formula. So I'm just going to select a few cells and hit average, and you'll see that when I hit enter, everything recalculates again. So if you've got a lot of RANDBETWEEN stuff, it can be a little bit distracting, especially if you're checking from multiple sheets, because by the time you go back to the old sheet to check the data, it may have recalculated, particularly if you have hit save. So RANDBETWEEN has got some good applications. What I have found is that if I want to get a decimal, for example, what I have to do is amplify everything up here and then simply divide it. So can't do decimals inside the RANDBETWEEN function, but you can just manipulate using a bit of simple maths a way to get that accuracy or decimal places that you are looking for. So let's say that I'm happy with my data and I don't want it to keep recalculating all the time. Tip that I often use, and I've got a little macro set up myself to do it. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but because I do it quite regularly, I have done a little keyboard shortcut for myself. And basically what it's doing, I select the data, I copy it, I go paste special values straight over the top of it. So instead of now being RANDBETWEEN, it's just a simple number. So it might not seem like much, but that replace values can be very helpful when you're just mucking around and building multiple sheet workbooks. Last one I wanted to have a look at was offset. Now offset is in the same family of formulas as VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, index match, etc. It's in the reference family of functions. And now what offset does, we've used it in dynamic charts before inside the name manager, but you can use it inside a worksheet as well, and it's actually quite easy to use inside a worksheet. So if I just start typing it, it'll tell us what the requirements are. It wants a reference. I always call this variable the anchor point. So in this case, I'm going to use B5. Kind of that's the top left corner of our box, our table of data. So B5, and I'm going to lock that down. And what it's saying is how many rows down and how many columns across do you want to go before I give you the answer. So let's say 6 and 3. And so effectively all it's doing, starting from that black box, going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and across 3, 1, 2, 3. And so 38.2 is the number, and so is our answer down the bottom there. And so offset, there are circumstances where it can be really, really helpful. I tend to avoid it. I use index and match more, but sometimes, as we'll see in the hydration chart, it has got some usefulness. So what I'm going to just do a quick demo of is how you might use it here. So let's say create a data validation box of months. And I just want to pull in some data to turn into a dynamic chart. And to tell us how many rows down to go, I'm going to use the drop-down list we just created. Hopefully you know the match function. Match is up there in the top 5 of useful reference functions. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I could do this function, which is just columns, and I use that all the time. If I lock the first part but not the second part, so the first C19 and not the second C19, then as I drag it across, C19 becomes D19, and therefore if I evaluate it, it becomes 2 and not 1. Oops. So if I drag that across and I change our month, it'll pull in new data. And if I drag that down to there, and that down to there, I may actually put this up above it to hide all the data. There we go. So there's my dynamic chart. If I'm being consistent, I'll make that stand out so that people know it's a drop-down box. There we go, that's even more obvious now. So we made a little dynamic chart using a combination of offset, RANDBETWEEN and replace values, and so now we can move on to the hydration chart where we'll take advantage of all of these 3 things. See you in a minute.